the advice that I would give to, other dads who are in this situation, just get involved. Don't feel that you have to do, everything. Just do something. I grew up predominantly Jehovah's Witness, and that was 18 years of my life. I just remember having a lot of questions. I just remember a lot of my questions, they were gone, unanswered.
Classical Conversation Studios presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortins, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Welcome to another episode of Refining Rhetoric. I'm excited to have a Classical Conversations dad, military veteran who uprooted his life, put his family in an RV, and started homeschooling his 4 young boys. And he is the lead learner in his house, and you are going to have so much fun listening to today's episode. His name is Adam Powers, and he's married to a very patient, wonderful woman, Jacqueline. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me there, Robert.
So, what was it like? You're U.S. military veteran. So, what did you do? How long were you in? Tell us your background. How did you get to where you are today?
First off, I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina, and like many places that you grow up in, that you could get stuck there. I didn't want to get stuck, and so I was like, okay, how can I get out of my hometown? And a buddy of mine came home, and he was like, hey man, join the military. They give you food, they give you a place to stay, and they'll give you a skill. And I was like, oh really? They're going to feed me? And so I was like, boom, sign me up. I decided to join there, and my job in the military pretty much was a parachute rigger my entire career. I did 8 years in the active Army, and then I did another 3 in the same job in the National Guard.
Well, thank you for your service. Now, when did you get married, and when did you decide you were going to homeschool?
First off, I'll say that I got married when they told me not to. That there's a certain thing when you're in training and you're just in training, getting into the military, they tell you not to get married. And I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to marry her on one of our breaks that we had during training. But luckily, I had a relationship with my wife well before joining the military. And so I just knew I wanted to marry her. And man, it was on the tail end when I decided to, when me and my wife decided to start homeschooling. It was on the tail end of my career in the military. I had a really good friend, Rocky Martinez. I called him Rocky Balboa. He's a little feisty, but I met them in a business venture that we were both, heading towards, and they were doing so much. They were working. They had 4 kids as well, and they seemed to be, functioning adults, and their kids were actually a joy to be around. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? How are you guys able to do that? And it was like, well, we work like normal people. We talk to each other. We actually love each other, this, that, and the other. But they told me it's like, we homeschool our kids. And I was like, as soon as I heard them say homeschool, so many memories popped in my head about, when I was in school and interacting with a lot of homeschoolers. I was like, your kids are a joy to be around. Homeschoolers weren't. They were kind of awkward. And it was like, well, we do this with a group. And they invited us to, check out their community. But it really happened at a practicum where in the first 5 minutes of the key speaker being on stage, she said these words to me. It wasn't to me, but I felt like they were to me. She said, you are going to teach your child how to learn. Mm. As soon as I heard that, I was like, yep, I don't need to hear anything else. I'm sold. Let's do this. We're running, And so that's kind of how we got introduced to the homeschooling and how we are where we are today.
Now, a lot of statistics are showing dads are getting more and more involved in the homeschooling curriculum and the application at home. And, sometimes dads are working 2 jobs so their wives can homeschool. And, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong, but what is your involvement in the homeschooling of your children? And what advice would you have for dads who may be in different phases of life?
Most definitely. I mean, those great questions, and just like you said, traditionally speaking, that it has been, the moms and the females, the ones who are trained or training within education. Something that I just had to come to a realization with that was the facts. But I understood from a young age that I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be a dad of sons and raise them. And with that, it meant not just in their personalities, character traits, and their discipline, but also in their education. And so, understanding where it is right now and why it is that way, I then started to just ask myself, and I asked my wife, I'm like, babe, how can I help you? Like, how can I get more involved in this? And she said, I remember she told me, it's like, I right now, I just need you to take him outside because he's frustrating me and figure something out with him. And I just remember taking my oldest son out there right around when he was 4 or 5, and we did a lot of jumping jacks, a lot of push-ups, a lot of burpees while we're counting. I tell you, beautiful thing, beautiful thing. But the advice that I would give to other dads who are in this situation, who are possibly working those full-time jobs, multiple full-time jobs, just to make ends meet, so that they have those opportunities for their kids and for their wife to do this. I would just tell you that just get involved. Get involved. Don't feel that you have to do everything. Just do something.
Mhm.
That early in my homeschool, I guess experience, I was a guy who put out chairs for our homeschool community. I was like, okay, boom, I can be here on time due to the military. Love
Yeah.
it. And put up chairs, put out chairs, put up chairs. Hey, you need some help with handing out these flyers? Boom, I've got you. I can do that. Just start small. Just start small. And as you continue to get experience, you progress and everything in that nature, you'll start to see more where you fit into it, where your gifts that God gave you really come into play.
You said you have we have 4 kids. How old are they now? And are they all boys, or you got a mix?
Oh man, I've got all boys, man. I've got a squad. So my oldest, he is 9. So 9, 7, 6, and 2.
Okay. So you pretty much started homeschooling with classical conversations right from the beginning of your homeschooling journey.
That's correct.
Now, obviously, we're unapologetically Christian, and you said you were trying to get out of your hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, which kind of begs the question, were you saved growing up? Did you grow up in a Christian home, or how did you become a Christian?
I grew up predominantly Jehovah's Witness, and that was 18 years of my life. And with that, there's a lot of structure that came to that. But I just remember having a lot of questions due to the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses was different than the outside world, and I just wanted to understand why. And I just remember a lot of my questions, they they were gone, unanswered. And I like to call it smoke screened.
Yeah.
And so, just wanting to seek knowledge, seek the understanding. I looked inward, but then I started to look outward because I had a lot of good friends who they had a love for Jesus.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, it's like just started asking them questions, and they got me in touch with another gentleman who used to be a Jehovah's Witness, but he found the truth and he was no longer in it. And so I started meeting with him, and all he did is like he didn't try to force me into anything. He just showed me, you know, the questions that I had, and then he showed me the answers in the Bible. I was like, why was that so hard? Why was that so hard? Why all this, that, and the other? But yeah, I definitely had I would say a Christ-centered, upbringing. Um, but in Wilmington, North Carolina, and the place that I grew up, in the public school or I like to say the public school arena, because
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was. We had to fight out there, not necessarily always physically, but you know what I mean. But it was different, and I didn't know of what was out there,
Right.
what different lifestyles were out there, and so I just knew that I had to do something drastic. in my own mind to be able to get out of
Could
that.
you share a couple of those questions, like that maybe were real influential in your conversion, or that you just had your eyes opened up?
Of course, of course. So of course, and this is in stages that
Sure.
everyone's in stages. And when I was really young, I always questioned like, hey, why can't I celebrate Christmas? It's talking about Jesus's birth. How are we supposed to be celebrating this? And of course, with that, there was the pagan holiday and the pagan side of it. And I understood that, or more so, I accepted that because that was given to me. As I got older, I started to, just really question, you know, the how we go about, studying and reading in the Word of pretty much why we skipped so much, back and forth and this, that, and the other. It was very
Mm,
confusing to me, and so I asked those questions. But one that really got me though was why was the Bible that we read within Jehovah's Witnesses, why was it changed?
mm,
There were certain wordings um, within the Bible that are changed, and I don't want to give it away.
sure.
But yes, there are some significant changes within the New World Translation and the New King James and the King James Version, and NIV and
Right.
several other ones. But I was very curious. It's like, why would you change this sentence in here? Because it changes the entire meaning of the scripture.
Mm,
And yeah, there was that. That was a major part in it, but also I just remember asking one of the elders, was like, "Do I have to be a Jehovah's Witness to go to heaven?" Because that was the ultimate goal.
right.
And I was like, Do I have to do X, Y, and Z?" And thank God for him that he gave me an honest answer, and he told me, "No, you don't."
Mm.
And I felt that the chains that were holding me, in that religion there, that I was freed from that.
I was raised going to church, and then my wife was not, and so it's kind of been fun seeing her kind of learn some of these Bible stories along with my kids, because she became a Christian follower of the way near when we were married, but right before we were married. So, what's that been like raising your children? And like, are you discovering Bible verses and stuff for the first time? And how is classical conversations like speaking into that development?
Oh man. Woo. Let me tell you. So yes, that I am learning new things, just myself learning new things every single day. And because of classical conversations, going back to, they're going to teach you how to learn that aspect of it, that, you're looking at scripture in a different way. That for one, going back to the Latin, and how Latin definitions are so much richer than English definitions. And so just understanding the perspective and then the background and the culture of that time and just going deep into that, oh my goodness, it's so much. um, but when it comes to the children, that I thank God for our community, that there are so many, in the community who are so far, in front of me, but also there's few behind me as far as like our journey in Christ, that it's, I don't feel the pressure that I'm the only one who is training my child, in a godly manner, who is, sharing scripture with them. My dad, he loves to read the Bible with my sons every night. And
Mm.
I absolutely love that, because some days it's like, buddies, I love you, but dad is tired. Dad is tired. But yes, my just the journey with my kids, it's been an amazing one when it comes to just reading the scriptures and just seeing the light bulbs just go off in their own minds when it comes to certain scriptures. And it's like, yeah, dad, I didn't understand it that way. And I was like, yeah, buddy, there's a lot more where that comes from, and you're gonna be getting that for the rest of your life, as long as you're reading the word.
Hey everyone, if you're like me and love to read with your kids and you're always looking for what's the best materials to really shape who they're going to become, to shape their moral imagination, then you need to look no further than the Copper Lodge Library series from Classical Conversations. It's a series that really preserves history's best stories and quality books to be passed on from generation to generation. Stories such as Walden are part of the Copper Lodge Library, which range from ancient Greek and Roman myths to modern folklore and classic literature. They're filled with timeless truths. So to find books in this series, just search Copper Lodge Library on our bookstore website at classicalconversationsbooks.com. That's classicalconversationsbooks.com, and search Copper Lodge Library. They could make a great birthday, Christmas, or Easter gift. And of course, these wonderful tales will be read in our challenge program. All right, let's jump back into the show. Now, obviously the economy's kind of in the tank. If you look at inflation over the last 2 years, I think it's about 19%. The average family spending, I think, over $1,000 a month just to be able to live the same lifestyle that they did a couple years ago. And we always hear is like, well, I can't afford to homeschool, or I've got all these bills, or I got this big car payment. And a lot of times I think that we don't realize that even the kind of poor among us are part of the richest 1% that's ever walked the planet. I mean, we have it pretty good here in the United States, but you and your family made a pretty radical decision to change your lifestyles up so that you could, I guess, afford to homeschool, or be able to live a life that you felt the Lord was calling you to live. So tell us a little bit about making that decision to go live in an RV with 4 kids and your wife.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, here I'll start off by saying this: like, yes, we live in an RV, and right now, if we don't, due to we had snow just yesterday and a little bit today, and so a home is a little warmer than an RV. Uh, but I tell you what, that it all started, when we actually had a home and living life very great. We just noticed, a lot of what you were saying, with the economy, that I'm not necessarily a numbers guy. I'm learning, but I'm not necessarily a numbers guy right now. And I just saw the stats with losing your family in a sense, as they get older, losing them to the different educational experiences, but also to just the world. So many things going at them, and like you said, I knew that we needed to do something drastic, that I didn't want to lose the kids that God entrusted me with. And so, the idea of living in an RV always came to mind, but I was like, man, you're from North Carolina. You lived in the suburbs. You lived in a house your entire life. What do you think you're going to do? Just move it to an RV? That's nonsense. But luckily, we had an amazing family who also CC, and their brother-in-law lived in an RV, and so we were able to talk with them, and it was something that we were able to do, that it was possible. And as soon as we saw that it was possible, we just decided to hit the ground and run. Do something drastic. We sold our house. We moved into an RV. We traveled for the first year, not every day, every week, every month, because Lord knows we don't have the economy.
Yeah.
Things go up. But yeah, we just decided to make that decision. We just understood that there was just non-negotiables in my life, that comfort, it was negotiable, but my kids' education, the love that we have for each other, that was non-negotiable, that I had to protect that at all costs. And so moving into the RV, that seemed like a logical thing to do for us. And right now we're still living in the RV. Things are going well. It's getting a little close because my sons, they're getting bigger.
Yeah.
Baseball, soccer, and another baseball, and then I just got one who just likes to run around and eat. So
That
yeah,
gets worse the older they get, I'm told.
so I've been told as well.
What type of lessons do you think your kids are learning by making this lifestyle change or making these sacrifices? Because, honestly, I think one of the most powerful things for the homeschooling family is this idea that you're just showing your kids that you can live differently and be happy and live a flourishing life, that the things of this world really are going to let you down. So they're kind of young, so they might not be picking up on that yet, but what are some of those things that you might see your kids picking up on?
I would say the lessons that we're I guess attempting to lay down, and hopefully they're picking up, are that, like you said, there's more ways to live this life, that dad and mom, we are shaping this life for you because this is something that is different out of the normal for us. But just moving forward, that literally the sky is the limit, that you can do what you want. You can create, what you want in a sense. I mean, we're made from the great creator.
Yeah.
We were made in his image, creators. And so that's what I'm really hoping that my sons just understand is that whatever, the good Lord just puts on your heart to do, to raise your family, to raise your own life. Who am I? Who is anybody to go against what he says? So follow him, like follow his direction, follow his leading and things in that nature.
Now, people might be asking, like, what, do you still work? I know, obviously, I know that you do some roles with classical conversations. So, do you do anything else? Does your wife work? Like, what is the economics look like in your household?
Yeah. So yes, I am a man of many hats. Literally, I have about 15 of these.
If you know Adam, he's usually wearing a cowboy hat, but because of his headphones, he's not able to do it today. So I was like, well, I didn't know if he was bald or what he had on his head.
I'll tell you a side note that I love going to church like that. Like every now and again, I'll throw people off. I'll go on without, and it's like, wait a minute, who are you? You look familiar. And I was like, yeah, I'm Adam. I usually have a cowboy hat. And they were like, oh my God, we didn't know you had hair. And I was like, yep, I've been growing it, for a while now. But yeah, so I am an SR within the Classical Conversations. I am one of those volunteering dads at our communities. I guess when it comes to work, of course, I left the military, I would like to say in good terms.
Yeah.
For all my military folk out there, you understand that. I have that, but also I work with a pretty awesome guy that he's actually teaching me how to build barns, barn dominiums, sheds, pergolas, and pavilions and things in that nature. But also, man, there's so many things that I actually get into. I'm actually I'll be building pools, kind of being a market leader for the Nashville area river pools. I'm
Okay.
hoping to get that position here soon. So a man of many hats.
Now, what did your wife think when you said you wanted to homeschool your kids? Was she on board, or? I'm guessing no.
Oh man, my wife thought I was crazy. Yeah.
I think a lot of our listeners think you're crazy.
You gotta be just a little bit, off the rocker, just a little bit. But yes, my the wife, she's optimistic. She's optimistic, but from our experience, like me and my wife, we went to the same middle school, we went to the same high school. So we both had similar experiences when it came to homeschool. And she's like, why do you hate our kids? Like, why do you want them to be weird? And it's like, man, you know me. It's like, that's not to go at all. Here, just hear us out. Actually, I had to have my the good friends Martinez, Cindy, and Rocky Martinez, that they had to be the ones to kind of talk with her and just kind of like educate her, because for me, I was like, I just can't. I see what could be, and that was enough for me. But the good Lord just knew what she needed and put those people in place.
Now, what would you say to like a family that says, I really want to homeschool, but I'm just not sure that we can afford it, or are my kids going to turn weird? Those are kind of the two main things that you hear from people who are like, it sounds nice, but can it really be done? So I think you're a testament that it can be done. But what's your response when people say that?
Yeah. Well, first off, I would say, for the ones who think their children are going to turn out weird, that I would say, look at the normal child today.
Yeah.
Weird is a good thing. Yes. And I wouldn't necessarily call it weird. I would just call it different. And it's different with a splash of goodness with it.
I think the Bible calls it peculiar people. You'll become a peculiar people.
Come on, somebody. Yes, sir. But I would also say, for those who don't think you do it, who are having, the financial struggles, this, that, and the other, that you just need to take inventory. Take inventory within yourself and just decide what's important to you. what is truly important. Is your children's education important to you? If it is, check us out. Check us out. That for one, CC it is God directed. To know God, to make Him known. And really, really, the rest is history. But especially just for those who are really like contemplating, is this something that we can do? Is this worth it? Financially, this, that, and the other. Yeah, just take inventory and make a drastic move. Do something that you won't regret. You know, there's a saying that I heard not too long ago that like classical conversations, it has like an ROI of like 19 years, that we don't expect anything up front, that it is when we get to where they're saying goodbye, love you, I'm going to
Mm.
start my own family, house, this, that, and the other, that's when, the ROI comes in, and that's when it really counts, in my opinion.
Now, do you have a teaching degree?
Do I have a teaching degree?
Yeah. What qualifies you to homeschool your kids?
Whew, by the grace of God. That is what that is what qualifies me to be a teacher. No, I have no teaching degree. I just had
Did
I
you
just had an
graduate high
undergraduate.
school?
Yes, I did. I did graduate high school by the grace of God. I graduated high school. Yeah.
Don't worry, you're probably 9-year-old by the time they're 12 will be smarter than you.
Come on, somebody. Hey, that is the hope and prayer. Yes, sir.
So will mine. So I always say that once you reach challenge A, you're smarter than the CEO of Classical Conversation.
Come on, somebody, man. That's awesome.
The education they're getting is definitely worth it. And like you said, it's a 19-year effort or 18-year effort, but the good Lord's faithful to the end for sure.
Mm. Yes, sir.
What would be some final words that you'd want to give our listeners? Some encouragement, and you don't necessarily have a book or a radio show, but if someone wants to connect with you and just hear more about your story, or ask you about homeschooling and being a dad and just taking that leadership role, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, well, not of course, but I sent over my Instagram and my Facebook, but I'm gonna be 100% honest with all of you. Get in touch with my wife. Jacqueline E. Powers, like at Jacqueline E. Powers. Get in touch with my wife. She is the best one to get in contact with me. Not because, I'm not one who's like in the social aspect of the world or anything like that, but I am one who is very much geared toward, my brothers and sisters in my community. That a lot of my time and energy goes to, the ones that I see, but also the ones like I'm just in proximity with. But that's not to say that, I won't get in touch with you, this, that, and the other. But in order to like really get, like, if you really want to get in touch with me or my wife or just us in general, just to see our story, this, that, and the other, yeah, get in touch with the missus, and then boom, she'll have you routed and you'll definitely get taken care of.
And then, what piece of advice would you have for a parent in general who's walking this homeschool journey?
Stay motivated. That was something that we said a lot in the military. It's like false motivation is better than no motivation. Granted, don't necessarily like that all too much, but in
Make
all
it till you make it.
yeah, fake it till you make it. Come on, come on. But really, just find your why. Remember your why, and like really just plaster that somewhere to where you can see it, because the time it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. In the Bible, it tells us it's going to get hard because we follow Him. Things they're not easy, but really focusing on why you started, on why the thought even came to your mind to homeschool, and then really solidify that. Throw that bad boy in cement, and then put that bad boy on your wall everywhere where you go, so you can constantly remind yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Adam, for being on today. And you mentioned your why. So can you tell us just one last time, what is your why? And then we'll wrap up the show.
Yes, sir. So my why is that I will be able to teach my kids how to learn.
Well, that wraps it up. That goes back to that first practicum with that speaker looking right into your soul.
Come on, somebody.
You're going to teach them how to learn. And that's the best gift that any family can give a child, is the ability to learn, because that'll benefit them for a lifetime. Adam, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Share this episode with a dad who might be wondering about homeschooling and how he can get involved. It's always so uplifting and fun to hear Adam tell us about his story and how he came to Christ and how he really just made decisions that were countercultural to make sure that his children grow up in a household that knows God and will make him known. So be sure to tune in next time, and please give us a like and a favorite and all the things so that we can get the word out to more and more people about this wonderful podcast that you listen to and love.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.